December 13, 1937. Japanese military officers stood in the streets of Nanking with cameras in hand, not to document evidence of a war crime, but to collect trophies. They smiled, they posed beside the bodies, and what they photographed that day was not chaos or soldiers losing control in the fog of battle. It was something far more calculated, something written into military strategy and documented in official reports that would later surface at war crimes tribunals. But here's what should terrify you most about those photographs. What happened in Nanking wasn't an aberration. It wasn't unique to one army or one culture. It was the latest iteration of a weapon that has been refined, perfected, and deployed across 20 centuries of human warfare. A weapon so effective that military commanders from ancient Rome to modern conflicts have used it with chilling consistency. The systematic violation and public execution of women during wartime was never collateral damage. It was the damage itself, as strategic as siege warfare, as calculated as cutting enemy supply lines, as devastating as any bomb ever dropped. By the time you finish watching this, you'll understand why historians, governments, and military institutions have buried this truth for generations. You'll see evidence that spans from Roman military doctrine to international criminal tribunals in the 1990s. You lines recognize a pattern so consistent across cultures and centuries that it can no longer be dismissed as isolated incidents, and you'll realize something that will fundamentally change how you understand warfare itself. Every major military power in recorded history, without exception, has deployed this weapon. The Romans wrote about it in their strategic manuals. Ottoman commanders documented it in campaign records. Allied forces knew about it and stayed silent. Modern armies still train for psychological operations that use these same principles under different names. Picture a map of human civilization stretching across 2,000 years. Now imagine lighting up every conflict zone where systematic sexual violence was documented as military strategy. Ancient Rome, medieval Europe, the colonial Americas, both theaters of World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Bosnia, Rwanda, Congo, Darfur, Syria, Ukraine. It's not a map anymore. It's a constellation of calculated brutality stretching from antiquity to this moment. The United Nations currently monitors more than 20 active conflicts where this weapon is being deployed right now. Not 20 isolated incidents, 20 entire war zones where the same strategy is unfolding on your evening news. You just didn't know what you were seeing. To understand why this weapon works, you need to understand the twisted military logic behind it. And that logic was perfected by the most efficient war machine in ancient history. The Roman Empire didn't just conquer territory. They erased entire civilizations, and they wrote down exactly how they did it. Open any translation of Livy's History of Rome and turn to the founding myths. You'll find something deeply uncomfortable. The Romans told the story of the rape of the Sabine women not as a tragedy, but as strategy. The text describes young Romans rushing at a given signal to seize the daughters of their neighbors. Notice that phrase, at a given signal, not chaos, not impulse, coordination. Roman military commanders wrote about this openly in their strategic doctrine, and the logic was terrifyingly simple. You could defeat an enemy army in battle, and they would regroup, rebuild, return for revenge. Their honor would demand it. But violate their women publicly and force pregnancies, and something far more permanent occurred. Those children couldn't claim their father's lineage. The family line was erased. The community's genetic continuity was severed. You didn't just defeat the army, you deleted their future. Roman military theory described it as conquest through conquest. You didn't merely take their land, you absorbed their people by making them carry Roman children. Imagine defending your city with walls and weapons and trained soldiers, ready to die fighting. Then the enemy doesn't attack your walls. They attack something you cannot defend with swords. Your culture, your bloodline, your future itself. That strategy worked. The Roman Empire conquered 3 continents and lasted 1,000 years. Other military powers watched. They learned. They copied. Remember this pattern. because you're about to see it repeated with mechanical precision. Violation plus forced pregnancy plus public display. The tactics became more brutal. The documentation became clearer. But the strategy remained identical. Rome fell in for 76 AD, but their playbook survived. 1461 years later, one army would take this ancient strategy and industrialize it, creating what still ranks as one of the most documented atrocities in human history. And they photographed everything. Thank you for watching the video complete. Let me know about your thoughts about this video.